She started dressing up for errands and hiding her phone like it was national security. She used to throw on sweatpants and one of my old hoodies just to run to the corner store. Yeah? Now she wears lipstick to buy laundry detergent and heels to pick up milk. At first, I told myself it was nothing. A phase, maybe. People change, don't they? But change like this doesn't happen without a reason. Or someone. The first time I noticed it, she said she was going to grab some things for dinner. She came back smelling like men's cologne, not mine, and humming a song she used to hate. Her phone lit up 3 times while she unpacked the groceries. She didn't check it until she thought I wasn't looking. She smiled when she read the messages. Not the kind of smile you give your husband after 10 years of shared rent, broken dishwashers, and late-night freezer pizzas. No, it was the kind of smile that says, someone else sees me. I used to be that someone. Now she turns away from me when she types. Her fingers move quickly like muscle memory. Her screen always dimmed. And the sound? Off. Always off. I remember the day she laughed at a meme I sent her from work. That was months ago. Now I could juggle flaming swords in the living room and she wouldn't glance up from her phone. She used to leave it face up on the table. It was nothing special, just a beat-up Samsung with a cracked corner and some goofy llama sticker on the back. Now it's practically an artifact from Area 51, always face down, always within reach, as if someone might hack it from the air. I wasn't trying to play detective. I didn't want to be that guy. But you don't need a magnifying glass to feel when your own wife is slipping through your fingers. She talks less now. Even her silence feels deliberate, like she's editing every word before it leaves her lips. The pauses are longer. The I love you's rarer. She used to ask me about my day before I even took off my coat. Now, dinner is eaten in silence, broken only by the occasional laugh, not for me, never for me, but for whoever she's texting beneath the table. I tried to convince myself it was stress. Or boredom. Or maybe she was just trying to feel better about herself. New clothes, new confidence, it could all be harmless. But then she started calling me by a name that wasn't mine. It was subtle. Quiet. She caught herself before finishing it. But it was enough. That was the night the floor cracked under my feet. I didn't say anything. Not right away. Instead, I watched. Not because I wanted to catch her. Because I wanted to be wrong. But the signs didn't stop. They multiplied. Late-night showers when she'd already bathed. Long drives just to clear her head. And the smell, that unfamiliar scent on her skin, not once or twice, but every time she came home from these so-called errands. I kept reminding myself, you've been married 10 years. Don't jump to conclusions. But maybe the biggest red flag is when you start having to remind yourself to trust your wife. I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing. Just watched. Waited. And hoped, silently, foolishly, that I was still the one she smiled for. She started comparing me to other men, always richer, more ambitious. At first, it was subtle. You ever think about switching careers? Mark just landed a 6-figure promotion, crazy, right? Don't you ever get bored doing the same thing every day? I used to think they were just conversation starters. Random thoughts. But the tone changed. So did the look in her eyes when she said them, as if I was a placeholder and she was mentally rewriting her life. Her compliments became sharpened. Smiles came with edges. You're such a good guy, she'd say, but it landed like a consolation prize. Like I was a participation trophy in a race I never entered. Suddenly my job, the one that paid the bills, kept us comfortable, built the life she once said she loved, wasn't enough. Stable became boring. Responsible became uninspired. I became a safe bet in a life she no longer wanted to play safe in. I came home one evening with a box of pastries from that bakery she loved, the kind of spontaneous gesture she used to light up for. She barely looked up from her phone. I'm trying to cut carbs, she muttered. 2 hours later, I found an empty cupcake wrapper in the trash. But it wasn't from the bakery I went to. She used to share everything with me. Her dreams, her failures, even the silly office gossip. Now her stories were curated, polished to a shine, just vague enough to make me feel excluded. Just a networking mixer. An old friend from college. A late client meeting, you wouldn't know them. Always just enough detail to stop me from asking questions. Never enough to actually answer any. And the names always men. Always successful. One was an entrepreneur who'd really made something of himself. Another ran his own company, Imagine the Freedom. She brought them up with the same detached admiration you use when talking about celebrities. But these men weren't celebrities. They were real. Present. In her orbit. I asked once casually who these people were. She laughed, not in amusement but in disbelief. Like I'd accused her of a crime just for being social. I never asked again. That laugh stuck with me like a bruise. Her schedule became a puzzle I was no longer allowed to solve. Evenings out for professional growth. Dinners that ran later and later. Always dressed like she was walking into a photo shoot, not a boardroom. Perfume that lingered long after she was gone. I started timing how long it took her to respond to my messages. Sometimes minutes. Sometimes hours. Sometimes not at all. She used to text me just to say she missed me. Now silence was the default. One night, she came home glowing. Not tired, not drained, energized. Like she just returned from some secret world where she didn't have to be my wife or anyone's wife. She kissed me on the cheek. I flinched. Not because I didn't want it, but because I knew it wasn't mine anymore. She talked about dreams again. But they didn't include me. New cities. New possibilities. Fresh starts. I asked her what she meant. She smiled. Just thoughts. But some thoughts don't drift. They march. They escalate. They break things quietly before anyone even hears the crack. And the more she talked about other men, the way they lived, what they owned, how they moved through the world, the smaller I felt in our own home. I started to wonder if she ever talked about me the way she talked about them. If I was just a stepping stone she'd already outgrown. If I was no longer her husband, just the man who held her back. Her stories had holes the size of the lies she thought I'd never notice. It started with the little things, the kind of details most people would overlook. A name said twice in different ways. A timeline that didn't quite add up. A receipt that didn't match the meal she swore she ate. But when you live with someone long enough, you learn the rhythm of their lies. And hers were starting to stumble. She said she was at a client dinner. I believed her until I opened Instagram later that night. I wasn't even looking. Just scrolling. And there she was, tagged in a photo at a rooftop bar across town, laughing, wine glass in hand, seated beside a man who definitely didn't look like a client. Her caption was innocent enough. A friend's name. A few emojis. But it was the look on her face that hit me. That glow, that soft, radiant kind wasn't exhaustion. It wasn't the look of someone drained by meetings and business jargon. It was the look of someone who felt seen. Desired. Not once did she look at me like that anymore. She came home that night hours after she said she would. Her cheeks flushed, perfume heavier than usual, her eyes lit like city lights after rain. I asked how dinner went. She sighed a dramatic, performative kind of sigh and said, exhausting. These clients never shut up. She didn't know I'd already seen the photo. I didn't say anything. Not yet. The next week, she told me she was working late again. Some end-of-quarter crisis. Don't wait up, she texted, followed by a heart emoji that felt like a placeholder. That night, I made dinner anyway. Set the table. 2 plates. Her wine glass on the left, like always. She never showed. At 11:42 p.m., she walked in. Hair messy in a way no office chair could cause. Lipstick slightly smudged. Her heels in hand. She looked more alive than I'd seen her in months. I asked how the office was. Oh, brutal, she muttered, kicking off her shoes. I need a shower. I stared at her back as she disappeared down the hallway, the shape of her lie still echoing in the silence she left behind. From that point on, I started keeping track. Not because I wanted to catch her. Because part of me still hoped I was wrong. But hope doesn't erase GPS logs. She said she was at a networking brunch. My phone said her car never left the parking garage. She claimed her phone died during an important strategy call. But I watched her silence 2 calls from the same number, then slide the phone under a pillow like a secret. Every day brought a new mismatch. Wrong earrings for the outfit she said she wore. A dinner receipt for 2 when she swore she ate alone. A faint mark on her collarbone that wasn't mine. Her lies were getting lazy. Or maybe she thought I wasn't looking. That was the most painful part, not just the betrayal, but the assumption that I was too blind, too trusting, too comfortable to see it. She didn't just stop loving me. She stopped fearing I'd ever notice. And still, I said nothing. Because there's a strange kind of grief in pretending not to know. In pretending your home isn't hollowing out while the lights are still on. In holding on to a woman who's already let go, just not out loud. But the cracks were no longer hairline fractures. They were splitting straight through the middle of everything I thought was real. And I was running out of ways to pretend they weren't. I asked a simple question. She gave me a rehearsed monologue. It was past midnight. The kind of quiet that presses against the walls. No wind, no cars outside, just the tick of the hallway clock and the occasional shift of wood in the ceiling beams. She was curled up on the couch, phone glowing like a secret in her hands, thumbs moving fast. She didn't hear me walk in. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. I stood there for a moment, watching the way her smile flickered across the screen. A real one. One of those rare, radiant smiles I hadn't seen in months. Not directed at me, anyway. "Who are you texting?" I asked it softly, casually, like it didn't matter. She jumped a little, just a flinch, but enough. Her eyes darted up to mine, and for a second, I saw it. That split-second panic. The scramble behind her pupils. And then, the smile. Too quick. Too bright. Too performed. "Oh," she said, locking her phone mid-sentence. "Just a friend from the gym. He's helping me with meal plans. It's not a big deal." Meal plans. At 12:14 a.m. I didn't say anything. I just nodded, let the silence thicken between us. But something inside me shifted. It wasn't just what she said. It was how she said it. The way her voice got soft, like she was trying to tuck the lie under a blanket. The way she looked at me. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with pity. Like I was the slow one in the room. The one who still believed this house was a home. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But there was no mistaking it anymore. That wasn't a slip. That wasn't an accident. That was a script. And she'd rehearsed it. Because when someone lies to you for the first time, there's a pause. An unnatural stillness before the words land. It's like watching a mask slide into place. You can almost hear the click. And I heard it. I went to bed that night and stared at the ceiling for hours. She lay beside me, still scrolling. Still smiling into that little glowing box. She turned her back to me when she finally set it down. She used to fall asleep wrapped around my arm. Now she curled away like I was the cold side of the bed. I kept replaying her words in my mind. Just a friend from the gym. Simple. Harmless. But I'd never seen her at the gym. Never heard her mention this friend before. Never knew workouts required late-night laughing fits and locked phones. She didn't just lie to me. She lied like it was routine. Like I was a child asking why the moon follows the car. That night, something broke. Not loudly. Not with screaming or slammed doors. Just quietly. Like a thread snapping deep inside fabric. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because now I wasn't just watching. I was listening. And when someone lies that easily once, you know more are coming. One glance at her screen, and my world shifted. The shower was running, steam curling under the bathroom door, fogging the hallway mirror. I was walking past, not thinking, not snooping, just moving. Then her phone buzzed. Once, then again, and then a third time, the screen lighting up in rhythmic pulses on the nightstand like it was breathing. I paused. I didn't mean to, but something about the name caught my eye. It wasn't saved with an emoji. No nickname. Just a first name I didn't recognize. Clean. Neutral. Deceptively ordinary. The kind of name you use when you're trying not to get caught. I didn't touch it. I didn't have to. The preview was still visible. Last night was perfect. Still thinking about you. That was it. That's all it said. I didn't scroll. Didn't open the thread. Didn't need to. That one sentence landed like a punch to the chest. Not sharp, not sudden, but heavy. The kind of weight that settles in your lungs and stays there, making it hard to breathe. Last night. Not a dream. Not a maybe. Not a misunderstanding. Real. Past tense. Concrete. Still thinking about you. Not just physical. This was emotional. Intimate. She didn't just stray. She gave herself to someone else. My hand hovered near the phone. For a split second, I imagined reading more, digging deeper, unraveling every word they'd ever exchanged. But then I thought, what's the point? I already knew the ending. I was just reading the footnotes of my own humiliation. In the background, the water kept running. She was humming. A soft melody, off-key, carefree. She was happy. She was happy. And I was standing 10 feet away, unraveling in silence. There was no explosion. No confrontation. Not yet. Just the slow collapse of everything I'd been trying to hold together. Every excuse I'd made for her. Every time I convinced myself I was paranoid. That I was reading too much into late nights. Locked phones, vanished laughter. I wasn't paranoid. I was being played. The betrayal didn't scream. It whispered in midnight messages, in faint cologne, in secrets disguised as small talk. I sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at the door as the water shut off. My ears filled with silence. A silence so loud it rang. She walked out moments later in a towel, smiling like nothing had changed. But everything had. She didn't notice the look in my eyes. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. That was the moment I stopped pretending. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. And once the house burns, you don't ask who lit the first match, you figure out how to survive the fire. I should have felt rage. Instead, I felt empty. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even cry. I just sat there, in the kitchen we remodeled together, staring at the walls lined with our life. The photos. The postcards. That stupid chalkboard with the quote of the day she used to update every morning. Love is built in the quiet. That's what it said now. Funny how lies can look beautiful in cursive. The coffee had gone cold in my hand, but I hadn't taken a sip. I wasn't even sure how long I'd been sitting there. Time felt irrelevant, like I'd slipped out of the present and into a memory that didn't want me anymore. I should have felt rage. I wanted to feel rage. But instead, there was this hollowness. Like she had already taken everything I could possibly feel and left me with nothing but the echo of what used to be. Was I blind? Or just hopeful? I replayed the last few months, the excuses, the changed routines, the lipstick that wasn't mine, and the laughter meant for someone else. It was all there. All the signs. I just didn't want to see them. Or maybe I saw them too clearly and convinced myself they meant something else. Maybe that's what love does when it's dying, it clings to denial like a raft. I looked around at our kitchen, the one where we used to cook on Sundays. I remembered her dancing barefoot, stirring pasta, singing out of tune to some 2000s playlist. I used to think those were the kind of memories people grew old on. But now all I saw were props in a story that wasn't real anymore. Pictures of us at the lake. Her arms around me. That fake, photogenic smile. All fake? Or had she started rewriting the script halfway through? I wondered when it changed for her. Was it one night? One text? Or did I just slowly fade into the background until I became convenient? A fallback. A placeholder until something more exciting showed up. I wasn't just betrayed. I was underestimated. She never thought I'd see through it. She thought I'd keep making dinner, paying bills, asking how her day was too loyal to ask the right questions. And maybe she was right. Because part of me still wanted to believe there was a version of her that loved me. But wanting doesn't change reality. And reality was sitting on my shoulders like concrete. I stared down at the photo on the fridge, the one of us laughing in the rain. It used to be my favorite. Now it looked like strangers pretending. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that she lied or that I had started lying to myself just to make it all feel okay. If she wanted a clean escape, she picked the wrong man to betray. Grief is a strange thing. For days, I wandered through our house like a ghost, quiet, watchful, unnoticed. But grief has a half-life. And eventually, it burns off, leaving something else in its place. Not rage. Focus. She thought I'd unravel. That I'd retreat into myself, maybe drink too much, maybe cry quietly in the dark like some broken man who never saw it coming. But I saw it. All of it. And if she wanted a clean escape, she picked the wrong man to betray. The morning after the message last night was perfect. I sat in the same kitchen where we used to dream together and made my first real move. I called my lawyer. Not out of spite. Not out of anger. Out of self-preservation. He picked up on the first ring as if he'd been expecting me. Maybe he had. Check the prenup, I said, my voice cold, level. There was something in there about infidelity, right? There was silence on the other end. Then a soft rustle of papers. Yes, he replied. Section 14. Your assets are protected if adultery is proven. No alimony. No claim to shared property. It's ironclad. And just like that, the fog lifted. Her father had insisted on the prenup. Said he didn't trust her judgment, said she was impulsive, dramatic, too quick to chase what shimmered. I thought he was harsh. But now, I almost wanted to thank him. I remembered how she rolled her eyes the day we signed it, said it was just paperwork, a technicality. She didn't read the fine print. I did. Now, she could walk away from me. But she wasn't walking away with my house, my savings, or my future. Not if I proved what I already knew. That night I started digging. Quietly. Strategically. Old phone records. Unexplained charges. Restaurant receipts for 2. Her gym login used 3 times in a month, yet she came home sweaty 5 nights a week. Lies leave footprints. You just have to know where to look. And I looked everywhere. I wasn't angry anymore. I was methodical. Detached. I wasn't trying to win her back. I was building a case. Brick by brick. Because betrayal isn't just personal, sometimes it's logistical. She was planning her next move. I could feel it. The way she smiled less, tiptoed more. The way she triple-checked her phone lock and started answering calls in the garage. Like she thought she was being careful. She wasn't. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That's not how the story ends. I watched. I waited. I listened. And while she thought I was breaking, I was documenting everything. Because love may have blinded me, but betrayal sharpened my vision. When I showed her the prenup, her face went pale, not from guilt, but from panic. It didn't happen in some dramatic moment. No yelling in public. No lipstick on a collar. No secret lover bursting through the door. It happened in our living room, the same place we hosted friends, exchanged gifts, pretended. She sat across from me, legs crossed like she wasn't guilty. Like I was the one on trial. I told her I knew. I kept my voice steady. Unmoved. A man who had nothing left to lose. At first, she played innocent, wide-eyed, soft-spoken, almost convincing. Then the story cracked. I watched it happen in real time, the shift in her shoulders, the way her hands balled into fists, the heat rising in her voice. And when I didn't flinch, when I didn't beg for an explanation, she snapped. She screamed. Called me paranoid. Called me cold. And then she pivoted as if betrayal gave her the moral high ground. I gave you the best years of my life, she hissed. You think you can just throw me out like trash? I want the house. The business. Half of everything. You owe me that. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't curse. I just reached into the drawer beside me and pulled out the folder. Hardcover. Matte black. The weight of inevitability. I placed it on the table. Slid it across slowly. Let her open it with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the pages. Line by line. And then she saw it. The clause. Section 14. Infidelity voids all claims. No alimony. No assets. No exceptions. And below it in perfect blue ink, her father's signature. That's when the color drained from her face. She didn't speak. She didn't argue. She just stared at the contract like it was a map to a place she couldn't go anymore. And then the tears came. But not of sorrow. Of loss. She wasn't crying because she hurt me. She was crying because she lost the life she thought she could walk away with. The safety net. The plan B. The future she'd built on lies. She looked up at me, mascara slipping down her cheeks like ink bleeding through wet paper. There was no apology. No confession. Just panic. I didn't say, I told you so. I didn't gloat. That wasn't the point. This wasn't revenge. This was revelation. This was the moment she realized I wasn't the fool she thought I was. This was the silence after the earthquake when the dust hasn't settled but the world is already different. And her tears? They weren't for me. They were for everything she thought she'd get to keep. She packed her bags. But this time there was no return. She moved through the house like a stranger. Every drawer she opened, every sweater she folded, every glance over her shoulder, it all carried the weight of disbelief. Like she couldn't quite grasp that this was real. That the life she tried to gamble with had finally cashed her out. She packed in silence. Not the quiet kind that comes from peace. The kind that settles when words are useless, when you've burned the bridge and the smoke still clings to your clothes. She didn't ask to stay. Didn't plead for one more night. Maybe she saw it in my eyes, there was no we anymore. Just her and the suitcase she filled too slowly as if dragging it out would change the ending. The prenup held. She tried to contest it, her lawyer bluffing like he had a card to play, but the evidence was airtight. The messages. The names. The timestamps. Infidelity wasn't a rumor. It was a fact. A legal one. The house stayed mine. The business? Also mine. She hadn't been involved in years anyway, just used the title to wear to dinners. Now it was just another thing she lost. She moved into a small rental on the edge of town, beige siding, cracked pavement. A far cry from the life she once curated for Instagram. And speaking of that, her social media went quiet. No more brunch posts. No motivational quotes about healing and growth. Just silence. As if even the algorithm could feel the shame. At first, she tried to spin it. To mutual friends, she framed it as a mutual decision, said we just drifted apart. But truth has a way of spreading. And people talk. She reached out to a few of them. I know because one of them called me afterward and said she really thought she'd get sympathy. She didn't. People weren't cruel, just indifferent. Because betrayal doesn't just break hearts. It drains credibility. And when the mask slips, it's hard to get anyone to believe the next one you put on. She wasn't the victim. Not this time. She was just alone. No house. No fallback. No spotlight. Just a quiet apartment and a version of herself she never thought she'd meet. Meanwhile, I wasn't celebrating. There were no victory laps. Just space. Space to breathe. To walk through my home without wondering who she'd been texting in the hallway. To sit in my own kitchen without picturing her lie unfolding beside me. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. Some endings don't explode. They exhale. She underestimated me and overestimated herself. The silence didn't feel empty anymore. For the first time in months, it felt like mine. Like peace. The house was still the same on the outside, same walls, same windows. But inside, everything had changed. I'd repainted, rearranged, removed the ghost of her laugh from the corners and replaced it with something quieter, steadier. Me. I didn't rebound. Didn't throw myself into distractions or vengeance. I rebuilt. Slowly. Intentionally. Alone, yes, but lighter. Like I dropped a weight I didn't realize I'd been carrying. Her betrayal used to play on repeat in my head late at night, in the shower, mid-conversation. Now it was background noise. Faded. Powerless. Because pain, when faced, doesn't define you, it sharpens you. She thought I was naive. She thought she could twist the truth, charm her way out, smile just enough to make the math disappear. What she never knew, what she still doesn't know, is that I had people watching out for me long before I ever needed it. Especially her father. He didn't trust me when we first met. Saw me as too nice, too patient, too soft. But over time, we found respect in unlikely places, long conversations, shared silences, moments where we both knew she was the storm in the room. He was the one who insisted on the prenup. Called it protection, not suspicion. At the time, I thought he meant protection from me. Now I see he meant protection for me. Funny how that works. After everything unraveled, he sent me a message. Just a single sentence. I'm sorry you had to find out the hard way. You didn't deserve that. He never took sides publicly. But silence can be loyalty too. As for her, she faded. Quietly. No dramatic apology. No sudden epiphany. Just absence. Occasionally, I'd hear things. That she was trying to rebuild. That she'd lost another job. That she was finding herself. But I didn't care. Not because I hated her, I didn't. I just didn't need her story to finish writing mine. She was a chapter. A painful, important, unforgettable one. But a chapter nonetheless. Now, I sit on the porch some evenings, drink in hand, cool breeze brushing through the quiet, and I think about how easily I almost let her rewrite who I was. I don't hate her. I don't even miss her. I just remember. And remembering doesn't hurt anymore. It reminds me what I survived. What I outgrew. She underestimated me. And overestimated herself. That was her final mistake.